cops on me. On a mission to be champs since they let me free. Prepare for combat, my adversaries crumble. Face it, I got a reputation for damage. Busters get ready to rumble. They lock me in a cell, have me trapped in a living hell. Though not guilty, I'm still in jail. Brother, I serve my time like a soldier. Maintain composure. My shadow boxing, a fight to the death. Busting boulders, every boxer with a pair of gloves. Best give up love. Here's a man from the makings of a thug. A lethal weapon, mind sharp. And in my heart, there's a wish to shake the world with the flurry of my black fist. Now once a high school dropout, now I'm the $1 million champ. Who's the next to get knocked out? Straight out of Brooklyn and worldwide.
What's going on, everybody? Another episode of Cheat Seats Box Show. Angelo here. On this episode, as I am solo, you will be getting a second episode this week from JP. We cannot get together this week, and with the action and boxing, really, do they deserve us taking the time out to do that? So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take some time off of work. Not really time off. I'm going to get paid for doing it. That's how I do things sometimes. We will get together next week. The topic for next week, I want you guys to think about this. Tweet at us at CheapSeatsBox or email us cheapseatsboxing@gmail.com. Boxers who have changed the sport. Good or bad, because that's how we like to do things around here. We think things outside the box. So boxers who have changed the sport for good or bad, and if the reasons, probably going to need more than Twitter. So email us if you guys want to. Follow the show on Twitter at CheapSeatsBox, iTunes and Stitcher. Rate, review, and subscribe. You can be the next unofficial sponsor. If you take the time out, we will always recognize you, and all that does for us is it makes the show more visible. When people search boxing on iTunes, it is right now the 4th show that pops up. So it's real visible now, and we want to keep it there, even bump up a little bit, a couple more spots. I would greatly appreciate it if you do that. Like I said, you can email us, cheapseatsboxing@gmail.com. Questions, comments, anything like that. Also, like we were talking about for next week, go ahead and get those in, those submissions in if you guys want, for boxers who have changed the game. So last week, the action was not hot and not heavy, but we did have some action. Nathan Cleverly gets a TKO over Jürgen Bräumer, the long reigning WBA regular champion, whatever. He's a guy who fights in Germany and only in Germany. He's the Darius Michalczewski of the current times, as Michalczewski held that. Was it the light heavyweight title? Yes, it was back in the day. He was the only one who had one besides Roy Jones. But anyway, in this fight, Cleverly is trying to put pressure on Bräumer, but Bräumer he withstands, I thought, an early barrage from Cleverly, who came out throwing a lot of punches, kind of a poor man's Leo Santa Cruz in the way that it didn't seem like he had a game plan for the punches. It was just, I was going to beat him with activity, wear him down, get the old man tired. I think, what is he now, 37? Wear him out towards the end of the fight. But Bräumer was landing the more effective punches. He actually was landing harder punches, and he, as far as I was concerned, was in control of that fight. I didn't see anything at that point. I know Cleverly finished the last round strong, but to me, and even a lot of people in the UK was telling you, no, Cleverly was losing this fight. Could he have maybe did what he wanted to do? Could he have worn Bräumer out? Maybe. But at that point, most people had him 2 points down. But somehow in the last round, was it the 6th round, Bräumer dislocates his elbow. Calls a stop to the fight. He pretty much did it himself. And the only thing I can think of, and why he was so quick to stop the fight, I guess, 1, he doesn't like adversity. 2, he knew he had pretty much an automatic rematch clause. I'm sure that was in there. And he's going to exercise it. So why, if I'm in control of this fight and then maybe this injury causes me to lose it, maybe I sustain more damage to the elbow, I don't know. It seemed like if he has a rematch clause in that contract, that was used as kind of, it kind of cushioned the blow of stopping the so he could stop the fight. It was kind of like it was something he could lean against, so he didn't have to go through the pain of because look, elbow dislocates once it pops back in place. It's basically sore and swollen, but still functionable. So I don't know. Cleverly is in line for the winner of Ward Kovalev. He's better off going ahead with the rematch with Brahmer. Let's be honest. We've already seen him in there with Kovalev. We saw him in there against Fonfara. He's not one of your top tier light heavyweights. And who knows? Maybe his strategy going into that fight will work. Maybe he will wear down Brahmer next time. Who knows? But that was about it from that fight. Joseph Parker gets a quote-unquote controversial stoppage against Alexander Dmitrenko. First of all, this fight go 3 rounds. Parker was in complete control. He knocked him down multiple times. The final time, he catches Dmitrenko with the body shot. He goes down to one knee. The referee doesn't jump in, and Parker goes ahead and hits him one more time while he's clearly on the ground with another body shot. And Dmitrenko goes into what people call some of the best acting they've seen in many years. It was pretty good. He kind of looked like Oscar De La Hoya rolling around on the ground after Bernard Hopkins caught him in the body. Look, should he have gotten DQ'd? Possibly. You're on the ground. He's on the knee. You got to just not hit. Was Dmitrenko kind of looking at the Montel Griffith way of getting out of there with a DQ win over Roy Jones? Possibly. Probably. Most likely, yes. But it was clear that Parker was the better man. He continues his progression. He's a fighter that a lot of people are high on, and some people know that he's got talent but don't see it yet. I'm one of those guys in the middle. He's got it. He's a little undersized compared to these heavyweights nowadays. He's got a good jab when he wants to use it. He pulls back a little too straight sometimes. He's waiting for the receipt. There's been a couple of stamina issues in the previous 2 fights before this. But in this fight, all you could take away was he looks to be growing as a fighter. Now, we know he's the mandatory for Anthony Joshua's IBF belt. But and if you guys haven't heard me give my nice fuck you to Tyson Fury, go ahead and listen to episode 195. You can hear my little 15-minute rant on that. If you guys have had trouble on iTunes, I know sometimes the recorder I use, which is my secondary recorder, will show that recording is only, say like this one showed 10 minutes, but it was actually 16 minutes. So if you're having trouble, go into YouTube. You can check out episode 195 on there. But if Tyson Fury is stripped of his belts, the WBA and the WBO, Joseph Parker may opt to not go down the Anthony Joshua road of IBF and instead possibly an Andy Ruiz WBO title fight for the vacant title. A couple of snags could show up. One, just the look of it, because he hasn't looked like, even though he's been the number one contender for Joshua's belt, he's been okay getting a few fights in between. And him and his team don't seem like they're afraid of Anthony Joshua, but they seem like they're a little weary of the timing, like they think that they may still need a little bit more time. The Andy Ruiz fight, if that could come through, because Joseph Parker is number 1, Andy Ruiz is number 3 for the vacant WBO belt, is an easier way to go and can provide more money down the road. It's not a bad business move, a little bit of a bad look, but you can totally understand, and I really don't hold it against him because he's such a young fighter. You know, Andy Ruiz is part of the progression. Um, Now, another snag that could go besides the public opinion is the fact that Klitschko could just say, you know what, I'll go ahead and exercise my right to fight for that vacant belt against Joseph Parker. Then it's number one versus number two. That hits a little bit of a snag. It makes things a little bit more difficult because now you're getting in there with a much more experienced veteran in Vlad. And then what does Joseph Parker do? Does he say, you know what, to hell with the WBO, I'm going to go with that IBF mandatory that I've already earned and fight Joseph Parker? Or is he going to play the wait and see game to see if Parker and Klitschko can make a fight happen for the IBF belt, and then just say, okay, well, go ahead, I'm good with that, I'll bypass, I'll give up my mandatory status and just go for the WBO belt against Andrew Ruiz? Like I said, a great business move, but we'll have to see. Honestly, if I was Joseph Parker, I think that if Klitschko said, yeah, you know what, I'm going to go for the WBO belt, sign me up for that vacant shot, I might pick Vlad over Joshua. I think it's a more winnable fight because I think that Anthony Joshua wears down Parker and knocks him out in the mid to late rounds, say between 7 and 9. But if you fight Vladimir Klitschko, I think that's a much more winnable fight. He didn't look great his last fight. He can be got to, and Joseph Parker has the power to get to Vlad. He's obviously young enough, and if he uses his jab, I know it's a taller guy, but if he can use his jab to get onto the inside because he's very comfortable on the inside, that might be the best route. And then if you did taking a loss, well, it's Vlad, so you know what, you're not going to be knocked much, and if you get dropped in the rankings, it's only probably one or two spots. You get knocked down to third, fourth overall. So that might be the way to go. But I don't know. I assume that Joseph Parker will take the path of least resistance to his first title shot, just like Anthony Joshua did. Nothing wrong with that. Also, last weekend on Ring TV Live, Peter Petrov, KO, was it 7? Against Michael Perez. Petrov, we were talking about last week, the winner of the Boxino tournament on ESPN, when ESPN actually showed the sport of boxing. I know it's hard to believe, but there was a time when ESPN did that. Petrov was he was a buzzsaw in this fight. Constant pressure on Perez. Perez couldn't handle the pressure. He was the epitome of boxer puncher, putting pressure on him, using good technique, footwork, and then just picking them apart with good, nice, stiff power shots. There was a clash of heads early on, and all that did was just give Petrov a target to go for, and he totally destroyed that cut above his eye. And, you know, Perez was a tough guy. After the 5th round, Garcia was say, hey, buddy, I got to stop this fight. And he talked him out of it, got 2 more rounds out of it, and then that was it. He's like, I can't do it. So Petrov gets the win. He's now the mandatory for the winner of the rematch that'll probably happen between Anthony Crawler and Jorge Linares. I'm going to be honest with you. Crawler and Petrov would be an amazing fight of 2 guys just putting constant pressure on each other and probably doing a lot of trading, a lot of in the middle of the ring action, going for just pure action fight. Where the Linares fight, if Linares wins, and I believe he will win that rematch, it would be a more stylistic fight as far as Petrov trying to to wear Linares down from pressure, and I think that could be a really tough fight for Linares because, you saw in the middle of the Crawler fight when Crawler started to put the pressure on it, he was having success. Petrov is a guy who kind of comes out of the gate putting on pressure. I think in a more sophisticated way than Crawler does. Crawler's a little bit more crude. So I think that could be a really, really tough fight for Linares. You would favor him, but Petrov is a legit threat at 135. And the lightweight division, like we've been talking about, is just one of the better divisions going right now. So if you guys haven't checked it out, if you guys want to check that out, ringtvlive.com. It'll show the last card from Friday, and that was the main event. This weekend, what do we have? Ricky Burns fighting whoever for that WBA. I'm sure it's a regular. And can we stop calling people who are WBA regular champions world champions? They're not world champions. The world champion is the WBA champ, not the WBA regular, not the WBA interim. The WBA world champ is the world champ. That's the only world champ you have. The WBA regular is no different than, to me, an NABF or a WBC Intercontinental title holder or Continental America's title, whatever bullshit title that they want to put on there. Like when Cleverly got that WBA regular light heavyweight title, they're calling him a world champ. No, he's not a world champ. He's a champion, not a world champ. He has a belt, but not a world champion. Stop doing that with those WBA regular. I'm going to have to go through one day and just list all the WBA regular champs. That goes for you too. Danny Jacobs. Sorry about that. Somebody was getting my attention. That goes for you, Danny Jacobs. You're not a world champ. You're a champ, not a world champ. That's why if the fight with you and Triple G go to purse bid, you only get 75% because you're not a world title holder. And this isn't a vacant belt or that's not how this works. The world champ gets 75%. What was I saying? Oh, I know what I was saying that for. Because Povetkin, Stavern going to purse bid for an interim title. Again, not the world title. The world title belongs to Deontay Wilder. The WBC world champion is Deontay Wilder. The WBC interim title, not world interim title holder, who will be the winner of the Alexander Povetkin and Bermain Stavern. That goes to purse bid on Friday. We'll talk about that when it happens. Honestly, the rule should be this fight does not take place in Russia. I don't care if Povetkin's team wins the purse bid, if his promoter wins the purse bid. It's bullshit if he gets that privilege. But he probably will because that's how shit works. BJ Saunders finally signs to fight an opponent, and now we know why. Now we know why he turned down Triple G. We know why he turned down a possible Canelo fight by turning down Willie Monroe, Curtis Stevens, and Gabe Rosado on the Canelo Smith undercard. Because he was going to fight Artur Akavov. And shame on us for doubting the guts and the balls that bitch BJ Saunders, I'm sorry, that fighting that champion's champion of Billy Joe Saunders. Shame on us for doubting his heart and his willingness to fight the best. I do like the fact, though, that he did say that he thinks he could beat both Canelo and Triple G, but was at least honest enough to say Canelo would be an easier fight because Triple G really is the best fighter at 160. He said he needed time to get older, to mature, to get ready for that Triple G fight. He says the time is now. He wants it in early next year. We shall see. Anything Billy Joe Saunders says, I don't take too much credence into it. It's kind of the David Hay type talk. it's the Danny Garcia talk. It's just, these guys all want the top fighters, but when they go to try to sign fights, it's never against that guy. It's amazing. They never try to make that fight. They say they want it, but they really don't. Couple of fights signed. We knew one was happening. The other one had been rumored. Orlando Salido, Takashi Miura. December 17th, signed, sealed, and delivered. HBO, I think, is getting this fight. So a lot of people have said this. I'm not the first, and I'm not unique in thinking this. Thank you, Canelo Alvarez, for breaking your hand and not fighting in December, because it has seemed to open up the door for Salido Miura, Lomachenko Walters, and possibly some money for Triple G and Danny Jacobs in December. Whether or not that winds up on pay-per-view is yet to be seen. But thank you, Canelo. The other fight, Denis Medvedev, the unified cruiserweight champion, coming off his win over Victor Emilio Ramirez to unify the titles with this second round stoppage, is fighting mandatory Murat Gassiev. And if that name sounds familiar, but it doesn't really click, I guess you can go on Vine. I put up 2 whole videos on Vine. One of them is Murat Gassiev knocking out Jordan Schimmel in May, and maybe what I think may be the knockout of the year, which led him to this number 1 position for Lebedev. Murat Gassiev, one of Triple G's stablemates. This should be a good fight. The cruiserweight division always is fun. You don't see too many cruiserweight fights and go, man, that fight sucked. That usually does not happen in the cruiserweight division. Kind of almost like the flyweight division, where it doesn't get the publicity, but it's like there's a lot of action going on in those fights. 108, 112, a lot of action. Whether it was guys like Giovanni Segura and Tyson Marquez, going at it. That's the kind of action you get at 200 pounds. It's the kind of action you get at 112. I think it's going to be a great fight. So if you guys want to go on Divine, you can go find us, Chief Seats Boxing. I got two whole videos on there, 2 knockouts. One, Gassiev Schimmel, and the other one was Rocky Martinez getting KO'd by Vasyl Lomachenko. Both possible. Both definitely candidates for knockout of the year. Canelo will not be on there for obvious reasons, knocking out Amir Khan. Okay. It is what it is. But the reason that I bring this up with these fights, and both of them are in December. In November seems to be stacked. You got Pac Vargas, Ward Kovalev, Lomachenko Walters, possibly Triple G, Jacobs, Miura Salido, and even this Lebedev Gassiev fight. It's almost like boxing is like, listen, we know we have kind of put you through the ringer. We know we have given you a lot of shit for 2016. So we're going to try to end the year strong. August sucked. October is going to suck. There's been other months. January was a pretty shitty month. It usually is pretty light. I know there was another month in there that was kind of dead. I remember trying to figure out shows. It may have been March or February. I'm not sure. But even if it wasn't a whole month, it was like a 3-week period crossing over from one month to the other. But, this year has been kind of a down year. And we've kind of getting used to saying that. You get good matchups here and there, but because of the number of cards that are on TV, it's not equating into a ton of good fights, good matchups that we're seeing. But November, December, they're going to finish strong. So what you're going to hear at the end of the year is talk about everybody, if these all fights go through, and if a lot of them live up to what people think that these fights could be, is you're going to hear a lot of people talking about how strong the end of 2016 is, and look what is in the horizon for 2017. Canelo's Triple G is gonna fight. Uh, uh, you know what? It maybe there's a Parker, Josh, depending on how everything works out. Unification. Just all these different fights. Maybe Canelo and Cotto fight a second. Who knows what the hell goes on with these guys? But anyway, what people are going to try to sell you on is how good the year went. The year will hopefully finish strong, which it looks to be doing. But don't get too happy, because every time you think boxing has started to turn the corner and getting their shit together, they go ahead and they turn that gun and they shoot themselves in the foot. Hopefully they don't do that. But this kind of has that feeling like they're setting us up for a big fall, and that's not what we want. But I got to be honest, as shitty as these last 2 out of 3 months have been, August, September was pretty good. October is going to suck. Hopefully November, December is strong. It does give me hope. I am very hopeful. I am not the biggest pessimist, but I'm not, because it's boxing, is not the greatest. I'm not the greatest optimist, and I'm not one of those guys who is totally loyal. And people call themselves, and I've said this in shows in the past. I don't call myself a junkie, because a junkie, they will do things for you for a quick hit of a rock. So I'm not a junkie. To what we are kind of that battered wife syndrome. Boxing has a way of slapping us around and beating the shit out of us, and we hold our face and we tell you, yeah, but boxing loves me. Just like when that battered wife syndrome, you don't know him like I know him. He really does love me. But if I know anything about following this sport for the last 35 years, is that it'll smack me around a little bit more. I know that. I learned to bob and weave over the years. Gotta be honest, the last 4 years, almost 200 episodes doing the show, it's made it a little bit harder, because although this is not our job, when you start doing these shows, you have to stay a little bit more informed and more in the groove. You can kind of take a month off here and there if you're not doing stuff like that. So it's been a little bit more difficult, and I've kind of learned to not get too excited when boxing has a good little run, a 5 or 6 week run, which this will end up being like a 6 or 7 week run. I'm kind of like bracing, like a dog who gets hit all the time. You're bracing, you're waiting for that shot to come. Hopefully it doesn't come. Hopefully it leads to a 2017 that's amazing, that rivals 2013 for one of the great years in boxing. But we shall see. The good thing is, after these shows, through October, man, this is going to be packed all the way through. It's going to be even tough doing the end of year, because if these fights are going December 17th, the next week is Christmas, and then you got New Year's, and it's like, that's tough to get those end of the year shows in. So it's going to be tough. We're going to have fun. We're going to try to fill out that schedule. Like I said, here we go. I'm going to close out with this. Just to remind you guys, next week, JP brought up a great topic, and I want you guys to email us cheapseatsboxing@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter @cheapseatsbox. Just throw the name out of boxers who have changed the sport, people who have changed the game for better, for worse, whatever you want. And what's funny is, because some fighters can actually be both. I can give you a scenario, and I will next week, I think, how Muhammad Ali was great and bad. He changed it for good and for bad in the sport. Floyd Mayweather is kind of the same way. There are other fighters out there. We'll go through them. We'll go through different guys who have changed the game. Go ahead and hit us up. Email us those, whatever you guys think. On Twitter, email, doesn't matter. Hit us up. Help us out. Again, we appreciate all the people who always spread the love on the show. And you can do that by going to iTunes, writing a rate and review. Quick, 2 minutes, 5 stars. Tell us you like the show. We will shout you out. Put your name on it. I know a guy did it. He rated the show, gave us the 5 stars, didn't leave a review. I appreciate you doing that. And as many people can do that as if you want. But if you take the quick 2 minutes to write your name and just a quick sentence about the show, we will shout you out. We will give you love. We will always do that. You'll be the unofficial sponsor of this show. We always appreciate you guys doing that. It keeps us up at the rankings. It's kind of humbling where this thing started to where we're at, where it's the first 4 shows. And sometimes it's the first 3 shows. Sometimes we actually do pass HBO. Believe it or not, that's kind of crazy to me. So go ahead, do that. We appreciate you guys. You know how we do. We shout out all the other boxing shows. They know who they are. All the love to them. Go ahead, check them all out. Just make sure this show stays in your rotation of shows to listen to. And you know, JP always says, this is where the fighters fight and the fans, that's us, who commentate. And we do it just like you from the cheap seats because we ain't buying no tickets, goddammit. Peace.
Please believe that I'll never be shamed again. Again, I'll be the next heavyweight champion. Call me crazy, but no one can fade me. I'm the projects, lost and crazy. Throw your hands up, Mr. Bruno. Ride, Big Mike Tyson about to brutalize that ass tonight. No hesitation for the whole nigga. I'll beat that ass so bad I probably violate probation. Do demonstration as I strategize information.